So as we all know that most of the damage that we experience on our health is usually irreversible. And more often than not, it is usually actually very late by the time a person realizes the relevance of that one doctor visit that he or she could have made before the damage on their health has aggravated to an irreparable level. And as you've understood by now, that the focus of today's session is to understand that how early diagnosis has a bearing not only on the financial aspects or the financial cost, but also on the overall being of an individual, or to put it this way, the human cost of early diagnosis. And to take our discussion forward, we have a very interesting duo of speakers with us today. We have Ms. Arunima Patel, who is the founder and the managing director of iGenetic Diagnostics. And also we have with us today Mr. Chander Sibal, who is the senior vice president of medical division of Fujifilm India. Firstly, a very warm welcome to both of you for joining us today for this critical discussion. Thank you very much. To begin with, my first question is for you, Mr. Sibal, that in a common parlance, most of us, we do understand what early diagnosis is all about. However, if we correlate it to the patient behavior perspective, and if we assess the uptake of services, I think the response or the behavior is very slow and it's very sluggish. And to a certain extent, if I say that, it kind of took us a global pandemic to understand the relevance of diagnosis. So before we move forward to more intricate discussions today, it'll be very helpful that, for our audience today, if you can, very briefly, talk about what actually early diagnosis is all about and what is its importance from the perspective of that human cost that we are talking about.
Correct. Thank you very much, Dr. Nalini. So early detection is the most important point, as we see that for early detection of the cancers, as Fujifilm makes a lot of products like full-field digital mammography. So early detection of the breast cancer is very, very important. Similarly, early detection of the lung cancer, similarly, early detection of anything. Because if you can nip the bud in the starting, it will not grow that much. And financially also, it makes a lot of difference. If for the management of any cancer, if you see, if we are able to capture the cancer in a 0 stage or stage 1, then management of the cancer is very economical. You don't have to go for a surgery. Conservative methods can be used. So we have seen, and it is proven fact, that once these cancers are detected at a very early stage, these can be managed with a very, very less amount of even the 5% of the total cost they can manage. And in the problem, as you said, that in India, the perspective of the customer, basically that in India, we do not have the methods or from the government side, any programs which gives them early detection of the breast cancer. As worldwide, the breast cancer is a very, very important topic. And there in India also around 1.5 lakh women die, detected every year, and out of which 75,000 women die because the cancers are detected late. They are detected in a stage 3 or stage 4. So it's very, very important. And from the data also, it's very clear. And WHO also has given a recommendation that we have to detect those cancers at an early stage so that the life expectancy can be improved for those patients. So this is very relevant. And in this time also, all these early detection is very, very relevant for COVID patients also, because most of the things are happening for the COVID patients. So small X-ray at an early stage can help detect the COVID or the COVID score of the patient with the help of artificial intelligence. Now the tools have come with the AI. And even some of the hospitals have started, when they are taking the patients or any patient is entering, they are taking X-ray of the patient, and they are able to understand what is the COVID score or what is the possibility of that person is having a COVID. So early detection is very important. And now in the new perspective, it becomes even more imperative.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Sibal. And I think you very correctly pointed out the financial and the human aspect of it, and also the role that government needs to play if we assess our situation vis-a-vis a global scenario. But before I move to Ms. Patel, I just wanted also to understand from you that how, as a very significant industry player, your contribution to this entire, the current situation of pandemic, and also because, like you just mentioned, patients with cancer and other chronic conditions, in the time of crisis, of this global crisis, I think our focus, while has been a lot on the diagnosis of, COVID, somewhere have we shifted our focus on the chronic conditions? And if not, then how do you think we can manage those patients much better? People who are already grappling with much more serious and chronic conditions.
Yeah, so this is a problem which we all are facing, that because of COVID, the patients are not going to the hospitals because there is a fear in their minds that they will catch COVID. So basically, we are also finding that there are very less number of people who are coming for, but I think slowly the situation will improve as some vaccine will come, or people will have a less fear from this COVID. Because right now there's a lot of fear in the patient's mind, or general public or perception is there that if you go to hospital, there can be some chances. So definitely, the slowly it will go as the situation will improve further, and some medicines and some vaccines will come. So there cannot be a faster solution, means because it will slowly seep in, and the right actions will be taken accordingly. And after this COVID situation is over, then people will take it more seriously, and the hospitals and the government setups. And we are also doing a lot of things in educating the people. Like we have made a very good cartoon from Pari Layegi Parivartan, that we want that the girl child to tell the mother that it's very important for her to take a breast cancer scanning, because it's very, very important. And once the daughter tells to mother, it makes a lot of difference. So we are also trying from our bit, whatever is possible during this time. And we are giving the trainings to the doctors for breast imaging. Our own doctors have written a lot of books, and they are also disseminating the training programs to whole entire world, not only to the India, but to Asian Pacific countries and other many Middle East countries. So we are providing a lot of programs, web seminars, because now the things are changing. Most of the things which we used to meet and provide those things, now it becomes very easy. Now also we are also meeting here, and without any wasting any time of going to the any hotel or anything. So now those times have been saved. So the new innovations will come, which will help us further to improve those things. And there are many people who are working on these lines for developing artificial intelligence products, as well as the products where human interface will be less, and with the help of machines only and less interface, the people will be able to get to know about their things. Wearable devices, AI, and all these things are under development. And this COVID will actually rather provide a boost to those things. It will be a kind of catalyst for providing digitization of healthcare, or smart healthcare, in a much faster way. And in very less time, I think within 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, we'll see a lot of change in the way healthcare has been delivered.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Sibal. And I think you raised a very important point of, how we are moving towards, like decreasing the collateral damage by moving towards the more better technology, artificial intelligence, and, more advances in the technology. And I think this is something where, firstly, I bring in Ms. Patel with us. And also, I think once she's done, I will come back to this point again, because this is a very critical point of where we are headed from here. So thank you so much, Ms. Patel, for being here with us. And I think while Mr. Sibal has very correctly pointed out on the relevance of diagnostics, you represent a domain of gene testing or molecular diagnostic testing. And I think this is, to put it this way, it is a much more newer domain. It is more intricate, and yet while awareness is slightly low, I would say that at least in the general population about this particular domain, yet the big question of difference between life and death hangs on to in today's time on molecular testing as well. So again, if coming back to breaking the basics of this particular aspect, that if you can, for our audience and for the larger, people who would be watching this video or this session in the due course of time, if you can firstly make all of us understand that what is the entire domain of gene testing or biomarkers or molecular testing is all about, so that we can move in a more intricate discussions post that.
Sure.
Over to you.
I will do that. My company has been working in this arena for last 6 years. I'll give you a small example as to how a molecular test or how a genetic test helps. Um, the traditional way of diagnosing an infection and what is considered gold standard is microbiology method, wherein you grow the culture. You grow the culture and then wait for the culture to give you some results in next 2 or 3 days time. Sometimes it takes maybe up to even 20, 21 days. What you see live growing there is what then you ultimately say is there in the patient as well. Now these methods are fantastic if the patient has the time to deal with the infection, fight the infection, all of that. But majority of the cases when a patient is admitted in critical care setup, they don't have the luxury of time, and that's where methods which we, for instance, so my company has developed methods for maybe over 40, 50 pathogens. We have been doing Nipah even before Nipah became a pandemic. These tests are done at a very rapid turnaround time. So today I pick up a sample from Kerala, bring that over to Bombay, and by tomorrow night my reports are out. So the turnaround time typically, once the sample has reached our lab, is maybe 8 to 10 hours, and we'll be able to diagnose if there is a particular infection in the patient. And you deal with all kinds of samples. You deal with pus, you deal with tissues, you deal with blood, you deal with respiratory samples. So we've been talking about it for last 6 years. It's only this particular pandemic COVID that has brought to light as to what a real-time PCR is. And what is the advantage of real-time PCR? First of all, viruses, you cannot grow cultures of viruses in majority of the labs that exist. You need a BSL-4 facility to even work with a live virus. What is a diagnosis available for viruses like that? Then you have to rely on molecular methods. And that's why COVID, nobody talks about doing microbiology for COVID testing. You talk about real-time PCR. The benefits that a real-time PCR or a molecular test or a genetic test brings to table is that it's very, very sensitive. A lot of times, for instance, your culture will not grow. If the person has been on antibiotic treatment, culture will not grow. So you wait for 3 days and then you, at best 20-30% of these samples will have some positive growth. So what do you do with the remaining of the patients? You actually treat them empirically. And if you use molecular methods, more than 50% of the times you'll get an understanding, you'll get a detection, you'll get a positive result, which says, yes, there is a bacteria present, this is the name of that bacteria. And by the way, this bacteria can be resistant to these many drugs. And that result in the hands of a clinician within 24 hours of sample pickup is very, very powerful, because you can then tailor your treatment based on that. Otherwise, the general norm for patient treatment in ICUs is normally that I start with high level of antibiotic and then I escalate within 2 days time if the culture has not grown. And then third or fourth day, depending on the patient condition, I start giving them antifungal. You start bombarding the patient with a lot of drugs. After 6-7 days, the infection has gone away, but the patient then body is fighting with all the toxins that have gone in. In brief, for things where you need early detection, like cancer, you need early detection in cases of infections. You need that's where molecular methods are very, very useful, and these methods are highly sensitive. So even if the cancer, for instance, or an infection is present in very small quantities, molecular methods will pick up.
Thank you, Ms. Patel. And I think the way you explained it, it certainly shows that, the level of intricacy which is associated with the molecular testing. And I think you just mentioned the point of it's been 6 years and how, it's just now that it's being suddenly everyone's talking about it. It's been 6 years, you are in close, association with this domain of science. What has been the challenges, and specifically, for this particular industry, or and also from the government side, from the infrastructure side, and how do we move forward? How can we create more awareness? And how can we, because this is where the health systems in India are supposed to move.
Sure.
So how do we pave our way towards that?
So first of all, awareness levels among the clinicians, among the general population is very limited. If I'm a patient and I'm already struggling with my hospital bill, then if somebody tells me, look, I have a choice of doing a microbiology culture, maybe 600-700 rupees, versus I can get a molecular test done, which may cost you 7,000 rupees. The chances are that the patient will say, look, मेरे पास इतना पैसा नहीं है, let's get a cheaper test done. But the benefit of doing a molecular test, that awareness among the patient does not exist as to why somebody would pay maybe sometimes 8 to 10 times additional for getting a genetic test done. Often, although clinicians are convinced that this test will help the patient, they have always struggled to explain to the patient as to why they need to get an expensive test done. That's one. The awareness among the clinician itself is low, especially in the pockets where if you go to a tertiary care setup, an ICU, the clinician there is fully aware that yes, molecular tests, what do they bring to the table? But you start going into the interiors of the country, it becomes very difficult. So our job has been for the last 6 years is educating the patients, educating the doctors as to what this particular methodology brings to the table. There are pros and cons for every method that is there. What we have been talking about is bringing advanced methodology to the table. And if it's an expensive solution, it takes much harder, much more work to convince a clinician to use this method judicially. So that's been one big challenge. The second big challenge that we have faced always is that this, one is regulation wise, there are hardly any regulations as far as diagnostic industry is concerned. So how do you establish your credibility? Anybody can come in, anybody can launch a particular test. Being a quality player, how do you differentiate yourself with somebody else? So that's a second challenge that we face. Bringing your credibility itself takes a far longer runway, because there are 10 other labs which have developed this, and you have to convince people with the usage, with the amount of time that they have been with you. That's the second challenge. The third challenge that we face has always been logistics. Very difficult to bring samples. In fact, even today, we would like to, our work hasn't started. Today, if I want my testing work to come from Bangalore to Bombay, it's just not possible. It's taking 3 days time. From Kerala, there is no logistics available today. So government has to understand that healthcare has its own needs. And these are, your center of excellences are few. They exist in pockets. So you have to be able to allow sample transportation. And you have to actually ease out the logistics in that manner. That sample, you have to assume that sometimes a patient's sample will fly from Kerala to Delhi or a Bombay or a Bangalore. So how do you support that? And third thing is that per se, there should be some more involvement in the training of staff manpower. You don't get these manpower. They are highly trained, skilled resources that we develop in our own lab. People who come out of biotech, BScs, MScs, they have to be given at least 6 months training before they can be put on the job. So these are the aspects where government can help.
I think very nicely put, and I think all that I wanted to cover today, you have very briefly touched upon everything. And I think unlike any other segment of the Indian healthcare, I think this is diagnostics per se, and no matter which arm of diagnostics you're talking about, this is one segment where we need not just strong intervention, but a lot of support from the government, and which comes in form of policy and regulatory streamlining. And I think that before before we move on to that particular aspect, I think one common chord that has also run between the answers that I've received from both of you is about the awareness. how do you think, we can tackle the issue of awareness, not only in the clinicians but also in the patients? That is one. And two, I think uptake of any services by the patients, purchasing power of the patient plays a huge role. A patient may or may not be aware of anything, but whatever we are providing to them has to be conducive with the kind of the purchasing power of that particular population is all about. And if we correlate it to the Indian scenario, I think on one hand we have a very low funding in the healthcare itself, and on the other, the economic, the purchasing power and the economics of India also doesn't allow people to kind of spend more than a very particular amount to be paid on these services. So where do you think your role comes in terms of awareness and to increase the uptake of these services, and where both of you think that government has a huge role to play, because we are at a very nascent development of this sector altogether?
So I'll go first. I think the role that my company has played so far in the last 6 years is actually developing things indigenously. We use our own R&D capabilities to bring down cost of what otherwise, if I bring these kits from international markets, there's a certain cost that is associated with purchasing those kits, and that then I have to pass it on to the patient ultimately. So we have developed in-house testing. In fact, COVID before, in January our test was ready. I'll give you an example. So before even COVID became such a pandemic in the country, we had our own testing methodology ready in January. We applied for license in February itself. We are one of the very few, maybe one or two labs in the country which have our own COVID kit approved by SEMA, because I have the backend capability of developing that. So one, that's a need of the hour. Having indigenous development is something that has to be supported by the government. In terms of, so that's one thing that my company is bringing to the table. The second thing, I think something like healthcare, you don't have GST inputs from the patient. So why do I have to pay GST when I buy kits? Why do I have to pay GST when I buy machinery? I don't get any input credits. Why do I have outputs? So that's something that government should look at. These are maybe two points that I'd like to make on this.
Similarly, from you, Mr. Sibal, one, like what is your comment on the the cost crisis that that's grappling India, and another is that awareness perspective. Take on that.
Yeah. So basically, doing creating, because India is such a large country. You have said that what kind of a role government can play. Because in Western countries, US, Japan, Europe, they have a program where after 40 years, every woman has to go for a breast examination or a full-field digital mammography test. But in India, we cannot do that because the population is so large, and also there are other priorities of the government. So we cannot expect that government should start with these programs, though definitely we would like them to do, but as a practical problem, we will not be able to sustain those programs because there are still food, hunger, basic necessities, education. These are the priority list of a government. So what we are doing from our side is that we are creating center of excellence. So we have now around 56 machines in India and mainly into medical colleges, cancer hospitals, and also we are trying to create a lot of awareness programs. And with the media, we do the press launches and we educate the people, we educate the masses that they should go for a mammography test. Whosoever can afford those tests can definitely go. And definitely the lifestyle changes what they can, the woman can make some changes in their lifestyles to reduce these cancers, and also a lot of training programs for the doctors because the new technologies are coming and doctors are also not aware. So we are also helping with a lot of programs which we are doing with the BusyCon, as well as we are writing many books because from India there was no books, no material was coming from India. But now I would say that there are many of our luminaries or key opinion leaders are there who are not only teaching Indian people, but worldwide they've been top luminaries now, and they are teaching the whole world. So overall, we are trying very hard with our application support, with our teams, to propagate them to the general masses, and whosoever can afford definitely can come. And our charges are also, means the charges which 2,500 rupees for a breast examination for this thing is not very much for middle class people also. So only thing is that awareness and what kind of a benefits they can get, because the women are coming only when there is some kind of a pain or a lump is there. At that point in time they are coming, but we are educating them. If you can come beforehand, it will be much more better. And those awareness programs are helping, and we are seeing that in metro cities, especially in Delhi, Chennai, Mumbai, Calcutta, Ahmedabad, Jaipur, there are a lot of patients which are coming themselves, and they are willing to get their scans done. So this is changing, but it is a slow process. It will take time, and we know that Indian kind of a country, it is very difficult for government. But definitely, what we are doing in government also, that we are putting these machines in the medical colleges, and medical colleges are doing a lot of programs because they don't charge patient. They are giving free of cost. Like the Assam government, they have also purchasing these machines and putting in a smaller areas for cancer, early detection of the cancer. So many things are happening. Similarly for the X-rays, like through teleradiology, faster reporting is happening. Early detection of the TB is happening, and in TB program also we're providing a lot of X-ray machines as the CR system. They are connected digitally, and immediately the report has been given to the patient within hours, 1 hour of time. The TAT is very, very high. We have joined hand with the Krishna KRSNA, and we are putting more than 1,000 machines across India, because India, the magnitude is very high, and the prevalence of TB is very, very high, and the number of deaths which is happening from TB is very high as compared to even COVID. So in those kind of diseases, we are helping, and through whatever means we have, and our prices are also reasonable. Prices are not very high. So in this way, we are contributing.
Thank you, Mr. Sibal. And I think you have just pointed out to one aspect on the behavioral aspect that, at least in the in metro cities and in the bigger cities, the uptake of services is different as compared to, if we go down to tier 1, tier 2, and, to much lower cities or villages at a more lower level. This shows that, or just to highlight another aspect of Indian healthcare is the social aspect associated to that. Because, and I think, Ms. Patel, I would love to hear from you that, if especially for women, because we are talking about breast cancer also here and many other diseases, for a woman to also make a choice or a decision to get up and, get a diagnosis done, it has a big social question mark on them, and which gets compounded with the family pressure or the fear or many other things, So how do you think, because while of course everything boils down to the question of awareness, but do you think awareness alone from stakeholders like you is enough? Because we are operating in an ecosystem. Who else do you think needs to just join hands right now to, increase that uptake by making the environment more conducive?
So I'll give examples of some of the countries who are doing this very well, right? An NHS system, for instance, in UK, or some of the states in the US. What they do is, from the very early stage of a person's life, they start educating you that these becomes a pap smear, becomes a part of your life. And it becomes part of your life when you're 16, then it will remain a part of your life going forward. You rightfully said this is a social matter more than, so affordability, once you solve affordability, once you solve distribution, it still remains a social issue. How do you treat, look at it. Today, people don't want COVID testing done because the social stigma attached with being a COVID positive itself is so significant. Same goes for cancer. Cancer word itself, and we've seen that change over the last 7-8 years. It's because of the prevalence of the disease, right? Every family would have gone through cancer, somebody or other. So the awareness is improving. The social acceptability as far as cancer is concerned is improving. We have to bring it in the lives of people at an early stage. We have to bring it. We have to start talking about it in schools. That these are the benefits. This is what's available for you to test. This is how you test. And then let the choice be for the person. But if you start talking about it when a person is 40, then you've lost the prime years when a person's mind is moldable. So that's something that we should bring about.
Right. Very rightfully said. And I think, while of course, if we break it down, we need to, change the behavior and bring it at a much earlier stage. I think a lot is what governments need, government's responsibility is to do. And especially in past few years, we have seen government, making a lot of changes or working a lot on the regulatory or the policy space, especially in the medical devices sector and the diagnostics sector, and even the Medical Device Act and price regulation, etc. These are certain instances that we keep seeing, that the government is very closely working on. But government cannot work alone here, and it needs to take help from all the stakeholders. So how do you think, because you both portray a very different segment of the industry altogether also, while you make us part of a single continuum of diagnostics, where do you think each one of you has a role to play with respect to the regulatory policy making in India, and how can you support the government more, and what do we need more from the government? Mr. Sibal, we'll begin with you on this.
Okay, so basically regulatory authority now, because now they are making certain regulations, and also that government is making Make in India very prominent, and they are making some rules that earlier India was kind of an import friendly market. Actually, we have seen that they were more basically promoting the import of medical devices and other things as the policies have changed. And now the government has started taking the steps where they want Make in India, and with the Modi ji's mission of Atmanirbhar Bharat now. And so they are inviting more and more companies to manufacture in India, and also providing certain helps. So I think that regulatory framework where Make in India will become more prominent, and but it will take time. It is not going to be overnight shift, and more help and support will be required from government to see, and also the policy changes wherein there will be some kind of non-trade barriers for imports, and it should not be import friendly country, and it should be a more manufacturing friendly country like China, where they have started manufacturing because they had the overall policies which helped them to make in China. So similarly now government is making those policies, and though it is going to take time because India is a big market, and when the market is there, every manufacturer or seller, if they will not be given a easy access to the market, then it will definitely help. But medical is a very different kind of a market, where if you will not give access easily, then also it can affect the health of the people. So they are taking a balanced view there and trying to improve on that. That is going to be the one help which they are doing, and this will be a long term also. This can affect in a long term. And also, as Arunima has told, that reduction of pricing, because the pricing is very, very important for the end customer. When they ask that, okay, these tests are done in 1,000 rupees, another test, okay, is there which is done in 10,000 rupees. So definitely the people will go for a cheaper test because of their pocket will not allow them to go for a 10,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees test. So once we have Make in India kits, as Arunima is saying that they have already developed Make in India kits, so that will help to further reduce the cost. When the cost is reduced, the people will be able to go for those tests very easily, and that will be a help, and that will help the whole ecosystem to grow further, and we can export also from India. And now in this COVID times and time of crisis, I must say that industry has come up very nicely. And the ventilators, if we see, we used to import the ventilators. Now we are making the ventilators in India, and 50,000 ventilators are made by Indian companies. And like Bell has contributed 30,000 ventilators with the DRDO, and Mahindra and Mahindra. Similarly, there's another company in Noida who's made those ventilators available. So it is there that can be done. But this crisis kind of a situation, we should utilize and we should feel that this kind of a crisis is there always, so that innovation can foster. Because not only that, because COVID was there, then we have made these things, but we should also think that, okay, even COVID will go, but we should have the same kind of hurry and same kind of a collaboration among the government, private, and the teaching institutes to come up with the new innovations.
Right. Thank you. I think you have touched upon a very important point here, saying that crisis is a point where we have shown our potential with respect to innovation as well. So just before we go further into that particular aspect, moving back to Ms. Patel, to you again on the question of regulatory policy support from the government. What do we need? Because this is a very nascent stage of development for the sector. We need a lot of support from the government. And also moving back to our topic of discussion today, that we need to put patient into the center of everything that we do, because human cost, beyond financial cost, it is the human cost that we are talking about. So what can we do on that particular regard?
So first of all, let's look at COVID itself. Before COVID, government had very little role to play on who does what testing, who's allowed to test what, except for H1N1, there were some guidelines around it. But COVID, how quickly the government machinery came together and worked with NABL and approved labs. The speed was quite heartening. I like us to continue with that and then say, go one step forward and say, look, these are government authorized or government approved facilities, or at least some checks and balances are being done when somebody runs a particular lab. And that's a that's going to be a very welcome change, because as soon as you are authorized by ICMR, you get a certain credibility in the market, and patient knows that this lab is where I need to go for my testing, rather than going to somebody else who may not be accredited or authorized. That's one. So regulation in diagnostic services is badly needed. We've been asking for it for 10 years now. Some shape and form that has to come in. Every year we talk about it, it's coming, but it hasn't come. I've been waiting personally for 5 years, but there is no regulation whatsoever. That's one. The second change, as Mr. Sibal also said, Make in India. India is affordability will remain a big challenge in the country. So why import at all? As far as healthcare is concerned, why import? You have the talent. You have people who are great engineers. You have people who are great in fluidics. You have people who are great in AI. You have people who are great in designing of molecular kits. Why not support these industries actively? Right now, these are entrepreneurs who are raising money and supporting their own ventures with very limited support coming from government side. China became a manufacturing hub because government supported them with real estate, with electricity, with tax exemptions for years to come. What is the support that we receive in India? It's in my mind, it's very, very limited. That's where government needs to play that role.
I think very rightly put, and I think in last couple of days, since we are discussing a lot of healthcare related issues by virtue of this Gratitude Week, I think one critical point that has been continuously raised by a lot of esteemed speakers is that in India it is about sick care and it is not about healthcare, because our perception of seeking healthcare does not exist. It's only when we are terribly unwell is when we go to a doctor and think of getting ourselves checked or getting accessing any kind of health services. And I think if this is a matter of perception, we need a 360-degree shift in the way the government is working and in the way the entire ecosystem is operating, so that patient once again becomes the center of the entire policies or the regulations that are being made. So moving on from this particular aspect, in the beginning only we discussed that how we have more potential now, and we have highlighted India in the crisis time. We have highlighted that we have a big path in front of us, where in form of artificial technology, artificial intelligence, and more scientific innovations that Mr. Sibal had just pointed out in the beginning. So moving back to that particular chord of conversation, and seeing that the crisis has in the time of crisis, it's the indigenous players who have actually stood up to their potential, and shown that what we have actually already in the country. So how do we balance that, in order to move forward from here? Because we are nowhere going back to what existed 6 months ago in this country. No, and it's applicable for all sectors that we have now. So healthcare will not return to where it was. It's only going to move forward. So in order to move more constructively forward, how do you think, we need the support of each other in order to fulfill that component of scientific innovations, and then we bring in AI, etc. Mr. Sibal, firstly from you on this.
Yeah, so as you know that government has moved to Ayushman Bharat program. We were talked about sickness and wellness, and they are planning to make wellness centers, 150,000 wellness centers, where they will be doing their basic testings like X-rays, their glucose levels and other things. So basic testing facilities will be available on these PHCs, which will be the wellness centers. So it is very important, because Indian kind of a country, we cannot afford a system for a sick people if 137 crores, 140 crore people are there, because the ratio of the doctors to the number of people, ratio of the beds, everything is too skewed actually, and they are also skewed towards the basically towards the metro cities. In the villages and where the 70% of the people reside, the facilities are very less. So as a India, our country, we cannot afford a sick care system. We can only afford a wellness system where people are good in health. And now, as you know, that our ancient systems of yoga, meditation, pranayama, so all these things are becoming much and more relevant every day by day. And even I'm seeing one of the videos from one of the doctors who is doing Jalneti actually during this time, and they are treating the COVID patients, and they are giving a report that from 600 COVID workers are there, or healthcare workers are there, who are doing Jalneti. They have not been caught by the COVID, and just by a small thing, Jalneti, and they said that the people who were not doing, 13 people who were not doing Jalneti, morning and evening, both the times, they were caught by the small thing, but it makes a lot of difference. So wellness is the most important point. Then the Ayushman Bharat, where 150,000 of our PHCs going to be shifted to the wellness center, and proper education, because sanitation, as the government of India started earlier, also Modi ji also started sanitation kind of a drive, where the washrooms and other things were not in the homes, where people used to go out. So that step is over. Now everybody has a bathroom in their homes. So sanitation, education, good level of education. As you know, that Kerala is much ahead as compared to any other state in the country. And what I feel today was I was talking to my friend that why Kerala is ahead, because of the literacy rate is very, very high. So we have to go to the basics of our thing. That literacy rate is almost 100% there, and that's why people are more aware. They know how to tackle the health problems. The healthcare system, even the PHCs, are equipped for taking care of the people, and the people are aware, people are learned, so they are learning. So that helps actually. Overall, the basics have to be improved. Actually, if you want to take the country up from sickness to a healthcare level which is very high, and once you are doing the basics correctly, then you can build a very big empire on that. But basics have to be correct, whether it is our ancient time systems, the yoga, meditation, everything has to be done. People have to remain fit, because you cannot afford to be unfit now in this world, because the medical cost, you can see the kind of cost which is happening in the hospitalization. And also, we do not have number of doctors. We have only 6 lakhs doctors to 130 crore people, 130, 140 crore people now. So how can we expect everybody to fall sick? So we have to be a much more, and also this has to start from the schools, from the schooling, our yoga, our meditation, and those kind of activities have to start from that level. And then if somebody has a diabetes or cancer or early detection from the PHC's level, if that starts, then we do not require such a big tertiary care systems which is available in the world and which might not be needed, and which not we will not be able to afford those kind of systems also, because we still have the priorities. Prioritization has to be given to those kind of things, to the jobs, to the education, skilling of the people. So those are still the important areas where we have to touch upon.
Thank you, Mr. Sibal. And I think very well said that, now we will have to bring the distinction of aspects, which is what is the difference between sick care, what is the difference between healthcare, wellness, and holistic care. And I think if we need to shift the entire paradigm of how we even seek healthcare, it needs a 360-degree shift, which needs to begin from how we are educated in healthcare from the time we are in school and to the time we are part of the different sectors that we are working on. Again, so the same question for you, Ms. Patel, that where are we moving forward from here? Because yes, we already knew that we had the potential. We have, in the time of global crisis, we have lived up to that mark. But again, where are we moving forward here, keeping the patient at the center?
So what this crisis has brought about, the mindset shift in people is that people are actively now seeking preventive rather than getting treatments done. So people are getting more and more aware of, let me build my immunity. Zinc tablets or vitamin D's and vitamin C's always existed. This is the first time that my own family, everybody in my house now has an oximeter and knows what to do with it. So what Mrs. Sibal said rightfully, importance of getting daily exercises done, importance of doing your breathing, your yogas, something which is apart from doing your routine day-to-day work, has been people have acknowledged that that's very, very important. So I hope that's one change that remains with all of us. The second thing that this pandemic has brought to the table is that at least as far as startups are concerned, they know that things can be done very quickly and can be accepted in the marketplace. So more and more players. So today, if people are developing these ventilators, 6 months back, I can assure you, none of them would have thought that they will be developing ventilators or PPE kits and things like that. And that was made possible, at least in the mindset of the startups also. I look at myself and I know that tomorrow, if I have to take a very quick decision on let me get into this particular venture, that seems possible now. So roadblocks have been removed as far as healthcare is concerned, from the mindset of people. People are ready to try out new things. Both doctors, patients are ready to try out new things, and that's a great shift forward. We've seen participation from IITs of the world. There's a lot of innovation that they do, and it is not now. It's not because of COVID that they've been doing this for years. But this is the first time that it's come to the commercial limelight, that the kits developed by IIT is commercially launched and people are accepting that. These are things that are actually quite remarkable that we've been able to achieve in last 3 months' time. Most importantly, this is a mindset shift that has happened, and I hope that continues. People are taking their sanitation. People are taking basic hygiene more importantly now. Social distancing, otherwise the concept just did not exist in the country. People will sneeze on your face earlier and wouldn't be bothered about it. But now they know that that's not okay.
Right. Very well put. And I think as we move towards the closing of our session, any last remark from both of you on a patient-centric policy and on the aspects of financial and the human cost of healthcare?
Okay, so I would say that COVID will bring a lot of opportunities. There are many negative aspects of COVID, but I think we should try to build a robust system now. seeing that what kind of problems, basically the digital health of the people, we should have the records of the people, storage of those records, giving them the proper information. So all those things can be done. And as we have Aadhaar card, so similarly with the Aadhaar, we can link our healthcare systems now very easily, because accession number is made already. Those systems which are already in work, we can extend those systems for giving a better healthcare and also giving them the proper information, knowledge, and disseminating whatever information we have. And I think government has done a wonderful job by giving a phone call. When we do a phone call, you get a lot of information on COVID, that what kind of things you should do and what kind of things you should not do, because there is a tune is there. When tune comes, that so these were the innovative things which have been done, and we should continue doing these things. And we should increase the participation of the private and public and the institutions. As Arunima has said, that like IIT has come up with a lot of innovations, and they have been coming for ages. Actually, it's not there, but now they're coming to the people. They are able to make those things and able to provide those things. So I think these kind of things, if we accelerate by taking the advantage or whatever it is now, because it's a crisis situation, because economy is taking a very, very bad hit. So we will have to make a new way how the economy has to be made operational, how the healthcare systems have to be made better, and how the education, what kind of education we'll have to impart to our younger generation, so that once they are there out of this situation, how they are able to cope up with that, how our youngsters, mental health of the people, how we are able to remain happy with. And also nowadays, everything has changed. Every weekend we used to go for some kind of a holidays or this and that, always in a hurry to pack your bags and go and all. So all those things have changed. Now people are not even thinking of those things. So things have changed a lot. We have to accept those changes and we have to get best out of it, because it is like a samudra manthan हो रहा है, उसमें से कुछ जहर निकलेगा और कुछ मतलब अमृत भी निकलेगा, तो सबको पीना पड़ेगा उसको, अमृत को भी और उसको भी. So I think we'll have to do a lot of Atman Manthan also, that we'll have to see that how best we can utilize this time and develop our kids and our future generation. This is going to be a lot of work which has to be done on that.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Sibal, and over to you, Ms. Patel, for your closing remarks.
So I think this particular pandemic has brought to the forefront the need of healthcare, the need of making that healthcare available 500 kilometers away from Bombay. It's time that we realize that these places have so far been ignored by corporates, by government, by everybody. And there are population there, there are farmers there are people who are ready to afford, and they travel all the way to Bombay for their treatments. So we need to start thinking both from the corporate side, and what we at my company at iGenetic, what we are doing is we are building, we are putting our infrastructure out there. So we are not a Bombay-centric company. We are in the interiors of Maharashtra, from Kolhapur to Nashik to Sholapur, all of these places. And that's needed by hospitals also. So corporates need to start seeing that these opportunities exist, and it's time that we take it to these kind of places. Same goes for government as well. Government needs to start facilitating that more and more. Maybe come up with a special scheme. If somebody is wanting to open up a hospital in a remote part of Sangli, why not give them some incentive? So that's very important. I hope we sort of start working towards that. The second thing that we, as an entrepreneur, I will say that right now, if there was anybody having any doubt on taking risk and bringing innovation, that whole mindset shift has happened. So why not use this opportunity to actually go forward? And we as a country today, if government supports being Atmanirbhar, being independent, then we can achieve a lot more. We don't have to rely on China, or we don't have to rely on France or Germany to bring that healthcare innovation to the country. We have the talent available.
Thank you so much, Ms. Patel, for highlighting these critical aspects. And I think you rightly pointed that, the need of healthcare just does not lie in the metro cities or in the, bigger cities that we talk about, equally an important need lies in much rural areas and in much smaller cities as well. And there's a lot that government needs to do, and I think all the players in the ecosystem, they have certainly shown the potential that as a country we have, and it's just a matter of time for us to kind of harness it more to bring the question of equitable access and in a much better manner, so that access to healthcare is not a challenge for even the one who is in a far-fetched area of rural India. Thank you so much for being here with us today, and for this enlightening discussions. Thank you so much to our speakers.